Hello, Japanese learners. Pick up your phones and get ready to dial because today I have a kanji for you. That's right, I'm here in my kitchen to tell you about this kanji, which means kitchen. Now, most of the time in Japanese, you'll know a kitchen just as kichin, right, or daitokoro. But long time ago, this kanji was used for the reading kuriya, and you'll still see it in words like chubo, which mean like a kitchen, usually in this case, an industrial kitchen, a kitchen in a restaurant. But I wouldn't be here in my kitchen telling you about a kanji for kitchen if this wasn't a special kanji. And that's why we have it on special now for a special deal, because this kanji is vital for accessing the Japanese internet. You see, the kanji for kitchen here, honestly, probably wouldn't be an important one if it hadn't been adopted by Japanese netizens quite a long time ago, at least in the early 2000s, to become an insult. Now, the reason for this is in early Japanese net forums, especially 2chan, etc., which started in 1999, people on these websites started using the word chubo, or literally like a middle school student, but can also be a middle school brat. The kanji there can be used in derogatory terms for younger people to refer to annoying people that came on the website that they thought were young or were behaving in a young way. This then collided with something that was very popular as a part of earlier Japanese net play, which was either intentional or mistaken misuses of kanji. I've talked about examples like more for ore or ureyama for jealousy in videos before, and this is just a similar example, because if you type chubo to mean the younger person, you actually might get kitchen as your first result. And you might use that intentionally because, one, it's fun, two, the early Japanese internet really liked using these kinds of things because not only did they create a sense of community, they also prevented other people from reading. It was a type of gatekeeping. Indeed, one thing that happened quite early in the 2000s was that these things called matome sites take screenshots of interesting threads from 2chan, etc. And a lot of the subforums didn't like this kind of stuff because they felt like their content was being used for free. And so they intentionally started using these kinds of things to make it harder for people to read so that screen capping wouldn't get an audience, right? You can't say, hey, check out this cool thread I found online on my website so I get advertising dollars if the screenshots are basically unintelligible gibberish to the average person. Now, this use of kitchen in chubo then collided with another term that was invented probably around 1999, which is Chunibyo. That's right. Today, we have vintage kanji and vintage wordplay for you. You won't see them at these prices again, so call now. Once we run out of this kanji, there are no more. And then, how will you write kitchen? You'll be out of luck. Act now. So this term was probably invented in January of 1999 by the comedian Ijuin Hikaru, who said it on a radio broadcast, which we obviously don't have video of anymore, but we do have the audio, which you can hear here.
我が国で大変な病気が今、蔓延してるんです。気づかないうちにどんどんみんなかかってるのが中二病っていう病気なんですけども、この命名はですね、中2あたりによく発病してるのではないかという、中学校2年生あたりによく発病してるんじゃないかっていう病気なんですけども、これ中2でも発病してない人もいますね。だから中3になっても治ってない人もいますね。高校で発病した人、大学で発病した人、大人なのにまだ発病した人っていっぱいいるんですけども、こんなことを言い出したらまず中二病でしょうね。因数分解が何の役に立つんだよ。なんてことを言い出した場合には、いや、役には立たねえけどやれよっていう言い返す力もないですから、こっちも。
And he basically defines this as a byoki, right, a disease that is common to second year ni middle school students, chu, which is basically poor behavior resulting from puberty, hormones, etc. However, at this time, indeed in the original use on the radio broadcast, it was used to refer to your own cringe at your own poor behaviors when you were a literal middle school student and being influenced by, again, hormones, etc. Sources online differ as to whether or not the comedian invented this term or just used it and had heard it elsewhere. I was able to find on Google a use that apparently goes back to 1997, but it's on Hatena blog, and Hatena blog was not created until the early 2000s, so who knows? Regardless, there's no question that this is what popularized it, but the internet took it and turned it into a non-literal term, not to refer to your own behaviors, but to criticize the behaviors of others. That is, people who are not actual, literal middle school students. There were less of those on 2channel than, older people, but people who behaved in a way that you associated with, again, cringy middle schoolers. This combined with the chubo thing earlier to result in representation turning into this on netplay, which solidified the idea that if you see this kanji, you are going to be talking about somebody who you find irritating and annoying. This all happened definitely by the first half of 2000, and now are solidified terms online that you can still see. For instance, here is a compilation of the singer Otto referring to herself as somebody who suffers from Chunibyo. That's right, just like Labubu and all those, celebrities use these too. So make sure to get out your wallets and order now, because if you don't, you might miss out, which is of course much worse than constantly spending your money because you're suffering from the fear of missing out. Anyway, unsurprisingly then, and I think interestingly showing kind of a spotlight on the various oppositions that exist within the internet, and the specific types of characters, personalities, identities that a long time ago would have just been, some person, but now are established tropes online, have been created by attaching this chu to another word. Some of the earlier versions of this were things like haruchu or natsuchu, which 2chan used to refer to kids who are on, spring break, summer break, etc., that have free time, and so they come onto the website and ruin the vibes. Terms like summer Reddit in English, for instance, are perhaps pretty close analogies. But there are also more complex terms, although you can generally figure them out by just kind of assuming that whatever the first part is bad. So for instance, a tairitsuchu is somebody that goes online and purposefully foments anger, argument among people. So not just a troll, but a specific type of troll that is not trying to get a reaction to themselves. They want to make two other people that aren't them fight through confusing the situation. And that's why you can see posts like this that advise you not to be made to dance by a tairitsuchu. A deaichu then, which comes from deaike, like a deaike saito or a dating website, or like a deaike appuri, like a dating app, is somebody who doesn't use these apps or websites, but rather goes into places where hitting on people or looking for a relationship is inappropriate or not expected, not wanted, and proceeds to hit on people, etc. This image here basically shows somebody asking ASL, etc., but a bit more vulgar, including cup size. It's a pretty good illustration. It's from the Pixiv website. But you can also see people like this who say, hey, I'm having a live stream. I do not want anyone who is silent, abusive, or trying to hit on me to come. Everyone else is welcome though. Just like everyone else is welcome to call now and buy this kanji. And these can also be offline. For instance, an ofukai is a meeting in Japan where people who are friends online get together in real life, in meet space. And generally speaking, it is considered very poor form to be a deaichu in these situations. These are for hanging out, not for hooking up. And in kind of an extreme definition, you can see this person call 3 of their followers deaichu for leaving once they announced that they were a man online. There are plentiful other ones. For instance, shoujochu is somebody who is like obsessed about women being virgins and gets very mad if someone doesn't save themselves for marriage. A koushikichu is somebody who gets very upset if somebody says something or makes art for a media product that does not fit the official canon of that media product. Koshiki being official. And similarly, a shijitsuchu is somebody who gets very upset when a depiction of a historical event, etc., is not 100% accurate. Now, to be clear, to be a chu, right, to have this kanji attached to the behavior, it has to be to an extent that irritates other people. If you just really like it when something is historically accurate, or if you are just really only interested in the canon and not kind of fan art, that's not the same thing. But if you go online and find somebody who's posted like fan art or something and say, hey, stop that, then that is chu behavior. That said, just like with Ado and calling yourself a Chunibyo, in a bit of self-mocking, self-deprecating humor, some of these, especially the more lighthearted ones, are ones that you can do to refer to yourself in, kind of a more playful way, recognizing that you really care about it, but you're not actually going to go out of your way to upset people. So for instance, a kapuchu is somebody that is very obsessed about a particular form of shipping. 2 characters for them need to be shipped together, and in the traditional definition, they will get angry at people that ship other characters or say that that shipping is not the best one. But you can easily find people online calling themselves a kapuchu, which also can be spelled with a small tsu. And you can find this variant online because it comes from kappuringu, right? Kappuru, it has the pause there. But kapuchu is the one that's like officially recognized by websites like Pixiv, etc. Although, it kind of is wrong, right? Sorry. Not to be like a koushikichu or like a tsuzurichu there, my apologies. But anyway, while this can be a negative term, a lot of people do refer to themselves lightheartedly as a kapuchu online to show that, they really just care about a certain pairing. For instance, this person just is expressing delight that 2 of the characters that they ship together happen to be lined up on the official website for the thing, and that's it. They're not causing any problems, but they're still calling themselves a kapuchu. Likewise, a kaikochu is somebody who makes life harder for everybody by saying, oh, things used to be better in the past. Again, not someone who's just like, oh man, I did like that stuff back then, but someone's like, no, everything was better back then. Things now are not as good. We need to go back. A pretty straightforward example is this person who calls MAGA, kaikochu. A lot of people, though, do refer to themselves as kaikochu when they just, are feeling a bit nostalgic. Like this person says they get a bit that way when they drink, which is certainly understandable. And you can see other examples where people reminisce about things. That said, I can't imagine somebody calling themselves like a deaichu or something in any way that is remotely positive, because that's not something you can do in a lighthearted way. That's just troublesome. So do be careful. Before calling yourself any kind of chu, any kind of kitchen, I would look online at least and see if other people are using that in a way that has any positive vibes at all. This is all, of course, in the manual that you will get if you call now and order your own chu. Anyway, finding a specific start date for any of these is very, very difficult, but I'd say that most of them have existed since the latter half of the 2000s for sure. For instance, I can find Tairitsuchu going back to 2009, I can find Kapuchu going back to 2008, and Kaikochu going back to 2007. Although it's not surprising that one's a bit older because Kaikoshugi, or like nostalgiaism, is another kind of net slangy term. It doesn't appear in some dictionaries that has existed since at least 2002. For instance, I can find an old use that's basically like the closest equivalent in Japanese to okay boomer, which again, just like being annoyed by middle schoolers, seems to be kind of a universal human experience. So get your phone out because I'm absolutely sure that now you see the importance of ordering one of these before you go online. That's all from me, your favorite Nihongo Sorango Setsumechu, and I'll see you next time.